think there's an important distinction between understanding people's realities and seeing people's needs.
Okay.
I can look over my fence of my neighbor into his backyard and see that he needs to mow his backyard. I can sit on my back deck and hear that he needs to get in control of his anger problem. It's not until I have some proximity, until I get close, that I can understand his realities.
Hey, I'm Tensley Almand, CEO of Atlanta Mission, and in these special episodes of Unseen Atlanta, I'm sitting down with key leaders, changemakers, and visionaries who are shaping a better future for our city. At Atlanta Mission, we believe transformation starts with people, and the conversations you're going to hear are all part of our call to invest in Atlanta. Today, I get to sit down with Bryan Apinis, the director of the Be Rich campaign at North Point Ministries. So I've actually been looking forward to this conversation for a while because Bryan and I go way back. We got a chance to work together for about a decade over at North Point Ministries. And for many of you who don't know, since 2007, North Point Ministries' Be Rich campaign has mobilized churches to give, serve, and love in some really extraordinary ways. And right at the heart of all that, although he wouldn't take credit for it, which is what I love about him, through the Intersect project and through Be Rich sits Bryan Apinis. And he's able to bridge this gap between faith communities and frontline organizations to do awesome stuff in our city. So Bryan, thanks so much for joining me. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Tensley. I'm excited to be here. When I had the chance to do something with Atlanta Mission, I was excited, but to be sitting with you is even cooler. So good to be with a friend today.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Well, life is really full. Oh. We've got 4 kids that'll be in 4 different schools this year.
I get that.
A lot of good things. And Jesus just keeps growing me and teaching me to be more and more present and be the best version of myself that I can in any moment. And when I lean into that, my life's a whole lot better.
I love that. It's hard to be present when you have 4 kids moving in 4 different directions and you're trying to take care of them and yourself and everything else.
Yeah, so you add in work and all the other stuff. It's a challenge, but it's really good.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. You have a really fancy title. You're the director of Intersect at North Point Ministries. So I love that, but a lot of people don't know what that means. So help kind of unpack that a little bit. What is Intersect all about?
Yeah, so I work at North Point Ministries, the umbrella organization over 8 Atlanta area churches, and I get to lead our community engagement ministry. We call it Intersect Project. The idea is the church intersecting with the community. We've got nonprofit partners in the community where each of our churches are, and we come alongside those. We come alongside those nonprofit partners and say, hey, how do we help our folks? Our tagline is Give, Serve, Love. How do we help our folks give, serve, love with you to help you achieve your mission? The biggest thing we do is the Be Rich campaign, which I can talk a lot more about, but that's I would say a ministry of Intersect for us. But the simplest terms I would say is it's our community engagement ministry. It's the way we mobilize and engage outside the walls of our church.
Yeah, and so why is that such a big deal to North Point? I mean, a whole department around community engagement, why?
Yeah. The reality is every church has a presence in the community. And along with the presence, if we're honest, has a reputation in the community. Every church is known for something. And we as a church would love to be known for compassion and generosity. And the way to be compassionate or to be known for compassion and generosity is not to tell people you're compassionate and generous. It's to be compassionate and generous. And we're so far from getting that all right. But the fact that the team that I work with exists is evidence of our commitment and our attempt to do that. And then I would say even more broadly and more foundationally, I think as Jesus followers, we're all aware that God's heart tips towards those on the margin. When you look at the life of Jesus, I know for me, it probably started in college where I began to realize I can't deny that Jesus just kept moving towards the margins. He just kept moving towards those who were somehow sidelined by culture, by society, and the often categories that we see in Scripture, the poor, the orphan, the widow, the stranger, the imprisoned, the sick, and so on. As a church, we know we need to be a part of that. That's something that we need to do as part of living out our faith, as a part of expressing the gospel in this world. And we said, what does it look like for us to, as a church, put some organization around that, to be intentional about that?
Okay, so let's hold on. You said a lot right there. So let's kind of unpack that for a second. I'm thinking about just where you and I started. I mean, you've got 4 kids going in 4 different directions. You've got life. You've got a job. All these. So do I. How do you get church members or attenders to move into the margin? It's one thing to talk about Jesus moving into the margin, but how do you get a whole church to catch a vision for that?
I don't know, Tinsley. If you figure that out, let me know.
We'd be onto something if we could figure it out.
Yeah. One of the things our team talks about is moving people from ignorance to awareness, awareness to engagement, and engagement to lifestyle. If someone comes into our church and is unaware that homelessness is an issue, and that's even true in our suburban context, you're welcome here. But we would love to make you aware that is a real thing, aware that there are organizations that address those challenges, aware that we partner with those organizations, aware that there are ways you can engage, next step with those, and then invite you to engage. I will say over the years of doing this job, Tinsley, that journey for people, ignorance to awareness, awareness to engagement, engagement to lifestyle, has gotten longer in time frame in my mind. I don't know that it actually has, but I think we tend to grow pretty slowly. We tend to expect other people to grow and change quickly, but I think if we're honest, we just grow pretty slowly. And so for us, there's just a steady plotting, continuing to share stories, continuing to put opportunities out there, continuing to spotlight nonprofits and the organizations and the needs and opportunities and challenges of our communities. There's a kingdom of God principle at work, many, but one of the ones that's closest to my heartbeat is that when we lose our life, we find it. You know, when we give our lives away, we gain it. And we're inviting people to taste that. You know, and I think when you taste it and you see that it's good, there's a wow, there is something to this. Again, generosity, compassion, there's so many ways to say it and talk about it, but it's a long game. It's a long game and impact in the community, and it's a long game and impact in people's lives. And by the way, those are the 2 wins of our ministry. We hold 2 wins together: sustained impact in the community and spiritual formation of attendees. We're like, how do we help make both of those things happen? And I say make, it's really not even make. How do we encourage those to happen?
How do we create the environment, cultivate it? Love it.
Yeah.
Well, you clearly do a great job of it. And I mean, I'm a raving fan. Our family attends one of the churches. And I think what I love is that and I don't mean this derogatory anyway, but we tend to make some of this bottom shelf. In other words, it's easier. We try to find out where people are, meet them where they are, and then make it as easy as possible to connect. Another thing that I feel like I hear you say often, and certainly our organization over at North Point talks about all the time, is this idea of partnering, not pioneering. Could you unpack that just a little bit for everybody to kind of understand why that's so important?
Yeah, so I'll go back to something I said a little earlier. Jesus followers, church needs to be engaged in loving its neighbors, needs to be engaged in helping, serving, coming alongside their hurting neighbors. But that doesn't mean, and this I think may be counterintuitive for a lot of churches, and it was something that we wrestled with in the early days of sort of forming this Intersect ministry, doesn't mean that we need to take it all on ourselves. It doesn't mean we need to put it on our shoulders. And that led us to a strategy of partnering instead of pioneering, partnering instead of competing. Wait, instead of having a food pantry, what if we found the existing food pantry and came alongside of it? Are there homeless shelters? Are there addiction recovery facilities? Are there even counseling services and stuff like that out in the community that we could partner with? We have a fewer, deeper partnership strategy because we really want to be partners. One way we say that is partners, not donors. It's the elevation of relational over transactional. But that for us is really key, is to say, hey, what does it look like to find great organizations in the community who, honestly, in many situations, maybe most situations, Tinsley, know the community better than we do because they've been there and doing it for a long time. And those hurting friends and neighbors are already coming in and out of their doors. What does it look like to come alongside those organizations and help them go further, faster, leverage our resources that we might otherwise choose to recreate something internally and go, what if we leverage those resources and came alongside those organizations and their mission and their existing work in the community?
I love how you keep doing this. You keep dropping these phrases as if they're just commonplace. So you said elevation of relational over transactional. That's huge. Like that as a nonprofit leader, knowing that there's an organization is invested in me relationally, or the work that we're doing relationally as they are, transactionally. Kind of flesh that out a little bit, because that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. I think there's a tendency, and I've wrestled with this a lot in my personal life, when you get into the helping space, if you can call it that. I'll say it this way. Can I go big picture
Sure,
here
go.
for a second? I think there's an important distinction between understanding people's realities and seeing people's needs.
Okay.
If I can say it personally, I can look over my fence of my neighbor into his backyard and see that he needs to mow his backyard. I can sit on my back deck and hear that he needs to get in control of his anger problem. Some might call it eavesdropping. I was just listening. But it's not until, and by the way, that all happens quickly and at a distance.
Right.
It's not until I have some proximity, until I get close, that I can understand his realities. And maybe it's a conversation driveway to driveway or on the sidewalk out in front of our homes, where I realize, for example, his mower's broken, and I can lend him my mower, or I can mow it for him, and all of a sudden we're connected in a way that makes us better neighbors to each other. Or more substantially, I find out that his dad is dying 1,000 miles away. He just lost his job. His daughter's gotten in 2 car accidents in the last 6 months. And you're like, man, does he need to get
now
control?
I want to mow your lawn for you.
Does he need to get control of his anger problem? Yeah, but I can't even begin to be a good neighbor to him until I have that proximity. So the need thing, I think there's this assess, assume, assign, right? So you assess the need really quickly, you assume you understand it fully, and you assign a solution, move on with your day. And frankly, usually after that is some quiet, distant judgment.
Right.
What if instead we said we moved toward our neighbors? Now that's a long way of saying, hey, I think relationship is the key to transformation. And even when it gets to well-intended, helpful things, we can get into the transactional space where we do something for someone else, assuming that it's what they need, assuming that it's helpful. We walk away feeling good about ourselves and done for the day. And sometimes that can be helpful, but if we're honest, oftentimes it's misguided.
Yeah. Well, I think about the work that we get to do here at the mission, and that assess, assume, assign. It happens all the time, right? Like, it's just, I see somebody, I assume I know their story, I assume I know how they ended up there. Usually I assign something that's, they're the reason why, it's their fault. It's, if it was up to them, that kind of thing. And then when I do that, I can just disassociate so quickly. And now it becomes their problem, not my problem. It becomes something they need to fix. It really becomes something totally outside of me. I love, again, this is why I'm so in love with the Intersect project and the whole Be Rich campaign and what you guys do, because you bring the greatest needs in our city right up front. Again, bottom shelf. You make it easy for people to assess them, access them, engage with them, but you don't just do it from a distance. It's personal, and it becomes personal not only to the organization but to the individuals, and that's where we see real transformation happen. So let's jump deep into some of this. So kind of within the Intersect project, there's this really huge campaign that happens every year, the Be Rich campaign. Tell us, just kind of give us high level. What is the Be Rich campaign? Why is it such a big deal?
Yeah, so the Be Rich campaign is an annual generosity campaign that our churches have done for, I think this year is going to be the 19th year.
It's incredible.
That we'll have done it. The name Be Rich is lifted from 1 Timothy 6. The Apostle Paul says to Timothy, command those who are rich in this present world to do good.
Yeah.
To be rich, that's the name, to be rich in good deeds. Not get rich, to be rich, to be rich towards others, to be rich in good deeds, to be generous and willing to share. And that's the inspiration for the campaign. Again, the tagline is give, serve, love. And the desire is, in the words of our senior pastor, what would it look like for us to all come together, rally together, all at once, to practice being rich together? And I even love that he says practice. At first I was like, no, we're actually being rich. But let's just practice being rich this one time, because it's something we hope carries throughout the year, and that builds in people over time as they engage with us. The biggest 2 components for adults are a give component and a serve component. When it comes to the give component, we ask everyone to give with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek infomercial spiel, $39.95. And we ask for 100% participation in our context $39.95 is really doable for the vast majority of people. It doesn't even change their lunch order,
Right.
And when it comes to the serve component, we're similarly saying, hey, and honestly, it's a much bigger ask. It's not the transaction of giving.
Yep.
It's the, hey, this will require something of you. But we're saying, hey, would you take one step to engage with one of our nonprofit partners? And our staff team has done the work behind the scenes with Atlanta Mission and many other nonprofits to gather those opportunities all together and say, hey, we've made this as simple as we know how, and would love for you to take a step and taste, as we talked about earlier, just moving towards your neighbors, engaging with a great nonprofit, and doing that together. Like, let's be rich together.
So in a day and age where nonprofits and churches are, I feel like we're all kind of wrestling with generosity and what does it look like now, and donor behaviors and new trends and all of this. Like, it seems a little risky to encourage your church members to give to something else that doesn't go to the church. I mean, how does that work? What have you guys seen? I mean, you're standing up asking everybody to 100% participate, give $39.95 as a starter, and we all know some people give way more than that. But if they're giving more to that, they may not be giving to the church. How do you reconcile those?
Yeah, I can't take any credit for it. I've been really grateful for the leadership of our organization that's just committed to that over years. And I see the particular challenge when, for whatever reason, the winds have blown culturally or otherwise, that giving may be a little down this year, or we're not sure we're going to hit targets. And we've just continued as an organization to make it a priority. I think behind that, to be honest, is faith.
Yeah.
Faith that God will provide, but also just the faith in action of, all right, this is something that is really good for us to do. We've been invited to this by our Heavenly Father. It's been modeled for us by Jesus. So, let's do this. And we didn't say this, although you inferred it. That money that comes into Be Rich, $39.95, 100% of it is given away to our partners. We don't take any money, even for the costs of what it takes to pull off the campaign, including credit card fees. All of that, all of it goes away. And there is, if I can say it this way, in the kingdom of man, a very real risk to that. But I think if we can have an abundance, a kingdom mindset, and look past that, there is something about generosity that inspires more generosity. There's something about finding life and giving our lives away that inspires us to taste more of that and to move in that direction. And we've certainly seen that, because the average gift is way over $39.95, and we've done it for this many years, and it has continued to grow, not every year, but pretty consistently over those years.
Yeah. What have you learned the most over the 19 years of doing it?
How long is the podcast? Along the lines of the conversation we're having right now, I would say there's huge power in collective action and in collective generosity, rallying people together around a single purpose. It's really unifying.
Sure.
How often these days do you get to say that thing is really unifying?
Right.
I mean,
not often today.
Right, just not often.
Well, how many things can you point to that everybody agrees upon?
And I think we're all hungry for it. I think we're so hungry for something that brings us together around a united purpose. And to be honest, Be Rich has that effect in our churches. We're intentional in Be Rich in sharing results and even showing the money going out the doors to our nonprofit partners, to attendees who gave to it. And I think one of the powerful things is $39.95 is not that much, but when we show at the end a celebration video where $6 or $7 or $8 or $9 million have been given away, and we hear reactions from nonprofit leaders about the value of the volunteers who showed up, or what this check will fund and the difference it will make for our mission and the people that we come alongside. When you show that to people along with the dollar figure, I think they can see their $39.95 in that dollar amount and go, I was part of that.
Right.
And $39.95 these days does not feel like you can do much difference with that. But if you can be a part of something that's given 6, 7, 8, or 9 million and building on something that's existed for as many years as this, I think it's just a really powerful testament to generosity. I don't know that there's much we can do to inspire future generosity than to show people the impact of their past generosity.
Sure.
And I think if we can even connect the dots for people, hey, you don't remember giving. You forgot you gave. You forgot how much you gave. You don't remember giving. God's just getting started. He is just getting started with the impact of that. And that's one of the beautiful things about our partnership over many years with our churches, particularly Buckhead Church and Atlanta Mission, is the collective impact of year over year coming and having these conversations and saying, what does it look like for us to work together? If and when we can communicate that clearly to attendees, I think it does something to people's hearts. Again, slowly and over time, but I think that's the journey.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I was going to say, I'm glad you went there because I was going to say it. On our side of the equation, it is that consistently showing up throughout the year that makes such a big difference. Obviously, we look forward to the fall and we look forward to the time when checks come in, and there's that puts a lot of wind in our sails. But it goes so much further beyond just a check. That helps us then. I mean, you've helped us with operating, you've helped us with staffing, you've helped us with capital, you've helped us with big things, and that lives on. And I hear from people at Decatur City Church, or I hear from people at Buckhead Church, and they want to know, like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Well, I remember hearing you talk about this project, or I remember hearing, City of Refuge talk about so-and-so. Do you know how it's going? And it's so cool to see how that generosity just almost snowballs into something, bigger. I mean, we just got a whole pallet from Buckhead Church of blankets and pillows and things like that. And that happened outside of the context of the Be Rich campaign. That's just because of a relationship. So partnership is such an important thing. How do you select nonprofit partners? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so we have a fewer, deeper strategy, as I mentioned earlier. Just a word more on that. We really, the partnership takes time. Partnership takes relationship. It takes space. We've learned that the best partnerships have, in my estimation, experience 2 criteria. 1, willingness and ability to say no to each other. And 2, the willingness and ability to give and receive feedback to each other. And those for us are core indicators of feedback. And that just takes time to develop. I've seen over time that our best partnerships, and I would put Atlanta Mission up there, and I have all the data, not all of them, some of the data points in my mind, but they fill out these 2 Venn diagrams. And I think it really is 2 Venn diagrams. There's what are we great at, really simple terms. What are we great at, and what can we do as a church, and what do you need as a nonprofit? But the other is also true. What are you great at as a nonprofit? What do you bring to the table, and what do we need as a church?
I love that it's a two-way street for you guys.
And that's been the healthiest nonprofit partners for us. We have a set of vetting criteria as well, looking at, I'll name a couple of them, the leadership of the organization, the finances of the organization. We've narrowed into a couple focus areas. So does it hit that focus area? Frankly, another one is proximity. Is it close enough to one of our churches that people can get there relatively easy to engage with on a regular basis? And we really build those partnerships over years. We tell an organization if we meet them for one, we have fewer, deeper strategies, so we're not always looking to add new partners. But when they do grow into partnership, it's often over 2, 3, 5 years that happens and grows. But it is that desire for us to really elevate, I would say, impact over activity,
I think it's one of the things that makes the campaign specifically, but Intersect in general, so impactful at North Point, is that you guys do the hard work. And so it creates confidence, for the end user, for the church attendee. I now know you vetted this organization. I now know they're trustworthy. I now know that it's worth me getting up on a Saturday morning, taking my family, taking away from something else, giving my time to this. And because we've all done it. We've all shown up at nonprofits or different organizations, and we thought, no, that was worth it. I've never had that experience working with a nonprofit through Be Rich, and I think that's huge. That, again, on the nonprofit side, that's a huge win for us because now you've kind of given us a stamp of approval. People show up at Atlanta Mission, they're already they already kind of know what to expect. Yeah, and I think that's big. So, what advice would you give to a church out there who's saying, hey, we want to go deeper in the community. This community engagement thing is interesting to us, exciting. This is your moment. Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I want to hear your answer after I answer it, Tinsley. I think I would start by saying commit to the journey, enjoy the journey, commit to enjoying the journey, and start by listening. Start by a lot of listening. And then I would also say, I mentioned this phrase just briefly a second ago, but I would say commit to impact over activity. And that comes along with listening. There's a lot of things, as we touched on earlier, that may appear to be helpful at first pass and may frankly feel good at first pass. But if you really get to know the nonprofit, you find out, that's not super helpful. We're cleaning up after you left. Right. If you had asked, we would have asked you to do A, B, or C, or D instead of what you did. And that's where the no's come in. We can't always
Right.
do that thing. Sometimes it's like, oh no, that's not going to fit, but let's come back, to that. But it's in the listening and in the building of relationships and commitment to relationship over transaction, impact over activity, where we find those things where it's like, oh, I think this is a really good fit for us. And it's finding that thing that's a win-win, that, oh, this is a neat way for us, a meaningful way to engage our attendees. And if I can get really pragmatic, frankly, that even fits inside of our church calendar sometimes is one of the limitations, but it also moves the needle for you. It's also genuinely helpful for you, Atlanta Mission or whatever nonprofit, you're talking to.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I mean, I think you said it all. I think the only thing I would add on this, thinking about it from my perspective, is start small.
Yeah.
Go deep with one.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
Find and really the way I think you do that is you kind of address this a little bit, is if you as a church leader or whatever organization you're leading, because let's be honest, businesses could do this, churches could do this, anything, anybody could do this, families could do this, But if you understand your why, so if you get really clear about, hey, why do we want to do this and what's close to our heart, and then go find an organization who lines up with those things and just go deep with that organization. Don't try to be North Point. Don't try to be some other church. Don't try to be something you're not. Just, be who you are, go deep, see what God does with it.
Yeah.
I love that, commit to trusting and enjoying the journey, because it's going to be a journey, because, it's a relationship, and sometimes we let each other down. Sometimes we exceed expectations. So how do we work through that, together?
You're reminding me of a question we ask ourselves that's been helpful to us and maybe helpful to others. Where are we uniquely positioned to come alongside existing work in such a way that we make a sustained impact? And it's kind of wordy, but it's got those three important pieces for us. One is, where are we uniquely positioned? And there's just an acknowledgement there that every church is different. Where you exist, where your people exist, the strengths and gifts of your church, the passion of your church, and the focus of its leadership, all those things can come into play in where and how and why and when we engage. But where are we uniquely positioned to come alongside existing work? I think in this space of being for our community and coming alongside nonprofits, it's important for churches to not always lead from the front, and to just come alongside what's already happening. And then in such a way that we're making a sustained impact. That's just a commitment for us. We don't just want to be able to say we're making a difference, but we're making a lasting difference. Not just that we're making an impact, but making a sustained impact. And that commitment, I think, has helped us do that more and have better and stronger partnerships.
I think it's the beauty of starting small and going deep, because sustained impact is so much more important to a nonprofit than just a flash in the pan. Like we have people show up all the time, one time, and then we never hear from them again. And every once in a while, that's catalytic. But what is transformative are those deep relationships. They're people who show up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And they're there for the long haul.
Yeah.
They help make us better. Wrapping up, what you've seen how generosity can change communities. I mean, you've been a part of it. You've watched it now for all these years. But how does it change the people who participate? Let's get real granular for a second to wrap this up.
It's a passion point of mine to look at that. On a personal note, this is going back to what I said earlier and just realizing, the example of Jesus is moving to the margins. I still don't know the best way to talk about this, but one way I would say it, Tinsley, is that as I move to the margins of my bubble, and as I move to the margins of my bubble and have over my life, I found that I find God there as much as I bring him there. I love the simple truth that we are all created in God's image. And when I'm interacting with someone who's different from me in any way, life experience, where they're from, language, culture, ethnic, socioeconomic, I can learn something about God from them. They image God in a way that I don't. And my life is so much richer for having done that. And I'm so far from having done it perfectly and sometimes even well, but the bigger my world gets, the smaller I feel in the best way. And travel does that for me, but so does coming alongside and engaging with nonprofits and moving towards the margins. And you see God at work, and you encounter someone who, in many situations, they're far more resilient, deeper faith, more hopeful, joyful, generous, and hospitable than I could ever be. And my faith is challenged, and I'm grown, and I'm stretched in a way. And that's the journey that I hope people go on. And it really is this long journey of step by step, and God's got everybody on their own path. But man, if we all as Jesus followers, as people of God, would say, you know what, I'm going to figure out what it looks like for me to neighbor well, and to allow God to continue to stretch my margins, my borders, I think at the end of our lives, we'll have a story that is far richer, far, far richer. And frankly, an understanding of and knowledge of and love for God that is far deeper.
I think about every time I stand up, and I get the privilege so often to stand up before our clients and share a message or talk about something. And every time I start, and I just feel like God puts this on my heart, and I truly feel it and mean it when I say it. It's never something that's just rote that I say. I always start by saying, "Hey, I have more to learn from you today than you do from me." And I think that's what's so impactful about a campaign like this is it gives us the opportunity to neighbor well. And again, back to your example of your neighbor, when you understand what they're going through, really understand, makes you not only a better person, I think it makes you a better follower of Jesus. It certainly makes you better equipped. You would never take this opportunity, but I want to give you an opportunity to brag a little bit as we wrap up. So do you remember, by chance, I'm going to put you on the spot, do you remember the first year the Be Rich campaign happened, what the total giving amount was for that year?
2007, $400,000.
$400,000, which is unbelievable. I mean, in 2007, nobody thought $400,000 was possible, I'm sure. Do you remember what the goal was?
We didn't have a goal that first year. It was way more than we did, and it looked a lot different, the campaign did, than it does now.
So 2007, $400,000. Fast forward. Where are we at cumulatively now?
Yeah, we just crossed $100 million this last year. Up to
given away, 100%.
Given away, $100 million, 100% given away.
That'll change a lot of lives, and that'll change communities. That's what it looks like to invest in Atlanta, and that's pretty awesome. Bryan, thanks so much for being with us, and thank you guys for listening to our podcast. We hope that you'll tune in again for the next episode. You may not know this, but October 9th is DAF Day, a national day to give through your donor-advised fund and make a lasting impact. So if you have a DAF, recommending a grant is one of the easiest and most tax-efficient ways to give. And when you give to Atlanta Mission, you help provide shelter, meals, recovery, and hope to neighbors who are experiencing homelessness. So visit atlantamission.org/DAF to give today. This DAF Day, turn your giving into transformation. What an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for listening to Unseen Atlanta. If you believe in building a stronger, more compassionate city, we need you. Visit atlantamission.org to learn how you can donate, volunteer, or share these stories. And most importantly, keep showing up. Together, we can invest in Atlanta and transform lives.